Grandmama used to pray, oh Lord, please save them from the evil snares and all the dangers that entangle. Yea, though they walking through the valley of the shadows, just prepare and make them fit for every battle, because I know they bound to come, and I know they bound to fall, but in your bounty, Lord, preserve their beautiful. Right, we still survive and offer grandma's prayers, surrounded by the jungle and the lion's den. Tread light, cause these traps is inconspicuous. They hide right in plain sight, thinking we don't see them when they linger. Look right beneath the surface, then leave a trail of corpses. Crisis, prices, your life a disposable commodity, like living in a fantasy, conditioned to believe that the system even cares whether selling CDs or walking or driving or reading. Look, they don't even need a reason. It's just you breathing and being black. When it's such a pretty fall, it don't seem like we falling at all, at all. It's just a GMO dream, where things are never really what they seem. Please cue the violins, tell them just to play me something pretty, cause this gritty city got me screaming bloody murder. Said it got me screaming. This gritty city got me on some. Look, get your hand up on my pocket. Distraction, so lazy they use the same tactics, like condom with some trinkets. Just don't let them get to thinking. That light bulb gets a blinking. You know niggas and ideas. Oh dear, my dear, you may not know me, but I know you very well. Foresight, they say hindsight is 20/20. But tell me something, we gotta see that history is on repeat, and maybe it takes a beat and a melody to speak a little louder than the message in the clouds or the essence in the air. I swear, my God is just so clear that a system driven by fear can never give us nothing but more of the same things. Oh, when it's such a pretty fall, it don't seem like we falling at all. It's just a GMO dream, where things are never really what they seem. Please cue the violins, tell them just to play me something pretty, cause this gritty city got me screaming. It's murder. Got me screaming, got me. This gritty city got me on song.
See, Lyndon Johnson, he can always raise an argument about law and order because he never talks about justice. But black people fall for that same argument, and they go around talking about lawbreakers. We did not make the laws in this country. We are neither morally nor legally confined to those laws. Those laws that keep them up keep us down. You got to begin to understand that. For 400 years, she taught you white nationalism, and you lapped it up. You taught it to your children. You had your children thinking that everything black was bad. Black cows don't give good milk. Black hens don't lay eggs. Black for funerals, white for weddings. That's white nationalism. Santa Claus. A white honky who slides down a black chimney and comes out white. We tend to equate progress with concessions. We can no longer make that mistake. You see, when they gave us that nigger astronaut, you said we were making progress, but I told you they were going to lose him in space. He didn't get that far. You put Adam Clayton Powell in office and you couldn't keep him. What you think they're going to do with Thurgood Marshall when they get tired of him? They gave you Walter Washington of Washington, D.C., and you said we were making progress. That's not progress. See, it's no in-between. You're either free or you're a slave. There's no such thing as second-class citizenship. That's like telling me you can be a little bit pregnant. The only politics in this country that's relevant to black people today is the politics of revolution. None other. The only thing that's going to free Huey is gunpowder, black powder. When black people become serious about the revolutionary struggle that they are caught up in, whether they recognize it or not, when they begin to go down and knock off people who are oppressing them, and began to render these people impotent, that's when the revolutionary struggle unfolds. Not until we are fighting enemies of the people. They tell you your problem is unemployment. Well, I got a program that can employ every black person in this country overnight.
Folks who were part of the Black Panther Party.
This is RSTV. We are happy to be here today. Not, I would say, for a grand occasion, but it's not a grand occasion. We're here because we're fighting, as we've been doing for the past 24 years, for the release of one of our most important political prisoners, that being Imam Jamil Al-Amin, formerly known as H. Rap Brown. Today, we are joined by a number of good folks, comrades and supporters of Imam Jamil, supporters of freedom, supporters of justice, folks who have been in this fight, many of them before I was even conceived. And I'm happy to be here on this platform with them. Again, this is RSTV. I'm Kalonji Changa, and we have joining us tonight Mama Afia Wanganza. Afia, how you doing tonight?
Better and better. And yourself?
Hey, man, we ready for revolution. We still rumbling, so it's all right. And I want to point out to you, this year makes 20 years that I've known you. And I don't know if you remember where we met at, but it wasn't South Carolina. I ended up coming to South Carolina, but we met in Brooklyn, and we met with Baba Herman Ferguson and Ialua when they were doing the political prisoner dinners. Political prisoner commemorations. Yes. So we say rising power to both Baba Herman Ferguson and Ialua Ferguson, who of course made the transition.
We had her homegoing about 10 days ago.
Yep. We're grateful for their works. We're also joined by Baba Bilal Sunni Ali, who I actually met a couple weeks after I met you. So we dealing with that from a chronological perspective, and Baba Bilal is him and Ia Fulani Sunni Ali are reasons why I'm still in Atlanta, because I probably would have got up out of here a long time ago, but there were some folks that were sane. In fact, I took my Shahada. Baba Bilal was there when I took my Shahada in the masjid at 547 West End Place, where Imam Jamil presides over. We also are joined by Imam Luqman al-Sadiq, alayhi salam, who has been a strong comrade and supporter of Imam Jamil Al-Amin and you can give that timeline, Imam Luqman, because I don't have your bio, but I've been hearing of your work for years, you and also our brother Imam Khalil, who is transitioned a few years ago up in I believe it's in Fayetteville or Durham. I can't recall. Greensboro, I believe.
Greensboro. I mean,
right Greensboro. Yes.
Yeah. My association with Imam goes back almost 21 years. I met him through Stokely Carmichael at Howard University initially. And then from then, I began. Our relationship started off through just letter writing back and forth, kicking ideas here and there. Then, upon his illegal arrest, it turned into phone calls, for which I now receive at least a call from the Imam at least 2 or 3 times a week.
And for the viewers, the question I'm always asked, because I always run into folks all over the country, and they talk about how they were best friends with him, how they grew up with him, how they used to play basketball, and then they asking me how he doing. So I get kind of confused. I'm like, man, I know what my best friends and my comrades that I've been knowing for 40, 50 years are doing. So I'm confused why you're asking me. Um, so I'm gonna ask you, since you talk to him more than it seems most of us on this program. Um, how is Imam Jamil? Uh, you know, despite of the circumstances that we're here to talk about today.
Yes, surprisingly, since all he's gone through, and especially the time he spent in AdMax underground, his mind is sharp as ever. I mean, he hasn't lost a beat. Um, His eyes, he had his cataract surgery, so he always did, but he wears his glasses. He's walking now with a cane, and he has two brothers that assist him on a daily basis with his needs. Outside of that, every time we speak, he rarely talks about himself or anything dealing with his physical health. His main statement is, what can I do for you? You know, and I remember the first time I heard that, it really threw me because I was like, okay, this brother is locked up in his Supermax, and he's asking me what he can do for me. And I'm like, wow, I was real humble. I was like, man, what can I do for you? And that's the type of, individual and personality that this brother is. And I'm telling you, from day one, I just fell in love with him, and our relationship has grown to the point that, like I tell him, he always asks, what can I do for you? And my answer is always, you already done it, just by your conversation and your friendship, and we're going to continue to work out here. And inshallah, gates going to come open and we're going to have you back home.
It's amazing. We've had our good brother Lumia on the platform probably about 5-6 times, and when you talk about that humbleness, here it is. You have two brothers who have dedicated their lives uh, to our liberation movement, to the people as a whole, and they're still asking how they can help you. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Both going through their trials and tribulations, both going through state-sponsored, uh, uh, damn near medical assassinations attempts. You know what I mean? And they're still asking the people, what can they do as if they haven't done enough? And we have folks who call us brother, sister, comrades, so on and so forth. And you'll be lucky if you get a salam, you
Mhm.
know. So we'll leave it at that. Ibrahim. Now
Yes,
I know you look like you close to my age, so I ain't gonna ask you how
sir.
y'all's rumbling out there. But
Yeah.
yeah, talk to us about why you here and who
Okay.
what Imam Jamil means to you as Ibrahim Abdullah.
Okay. Well, I was part of one of the masjids that Imam Jamil was, part of his national community here in Cleveland. So I came to that masjid in 1995. So since '95, I was, been under Imam Jamil's leadership, as far as being a part of the national community, and just so once he, once the, you know, he was, jammed up in terms of this, this situation right now. I was just one of the people in the masjid who was always supportive of him and tried to rally, going down to Atlanta for rallies and helping spread information. We had some rallies at that time, even previous to his trial. We gathered up, came down to Atlanta, and tried to disseminate information in order to, in particular in Fulton County, in order to get people who may be potential jurors to have some form of education about who he was and about different aspects of the case. And so basically, since then, at that time, I was still in my 20s at the time. Like, yeah, mid to late 20s. So that's basically my commitment to Imam Jamil and to his leadership been through the masjid and through being part of the national community and coming out to Atlanta frequently, to hear him, or when we had different events, and going to Whitehall when he was making the call there. So that's my connection, and being
Well,
part of IJAN since then.
no doubt, no doubt. Well, we are happy that you have been committed, and I know that you mentioned one of our mutual brothers. May Allah be pleased with him.
I mean,
Uh, our brother Abdul Muhammad, who
uh,
who I was under his sutra leadership, and
Yeah, yeah.
and we had enough. If you know Abdul Muhammad, we had enough hardcore sessions. We had enough clowning to go with it. You know what I mean?
Right, no
So,
doubt. Yeah,
you know,
that's
he's
my man.
yeah, he definitely one of the brothers
Yeah,
that you know, that there's certain people for me that help to make the West End the West End. You know
right,
what I mean?
right.
And his absence, has been felt since
No doubt.
he's since his transition. Um, yeah, so I appreciate you all coming on the platform today. I want to start out by talking about we got a lot to cover, but I want to talk about Imam Jamil going back to H. Rap Brown. As an organizer coming to Atlanta, I had the opportunity to work with his brother, who was, uh, comrades with you all, and I know you in particular, Mama Fia, going back to SNCC. I want, if you don't mind, give us some background, taking it back to SNCC, because I think that one of the things that often happens, a lot of folks identify Imam Jamil Al-Amin or H. Rap Brown as a member of the Black Panther Party, and oftentimes SNCC isn't mentioned, uh, in certain settings, because I don't, for whatever reason, and that's just my observation. So forgive me if my observation is incorrect, but if you don't mind giving folks a rundown of as to who uh, H. Rap Brown and his brother Ed uh, are, and what they meant to you.
You know, I do find it interesting that 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 his SNCC, that SNCC generally, but his role in SNCC is not highlighted in biography. I think a part of it has to do with the romanticism that of the black towards the Black Panther Party. Also, SNCC was a disruptor. Uh, the shifting from civil rights to human rights has never sat well with the media in this country, as well as the establishment. It disrupts the United States' effort uh, to, to present itself as the gold standard for human rights, number one. And number two, it also raises the history of the liberation struggle, which is a part of the phase that Nick raised and highlighted in this country more so than did SCLC, NAACP, or any of the other organizations of the day. Jamil in, was involved in the movement in the most at the most dangerous time, modern times, when people were being killed, churches were being burnt, homes were being bombed, the Freedom Riders with the buses being blown up. He the target of and a resistor, dissenter, and ultimately a revolutionary from a very early age. I believe that there's stories that talk about him as early as 14 years old. Um, that his being, as was often the case with many SNCC workers, being expelled from school, ultimately his going to Washington, D.C. to be with his brother, Ed Brown, who himself was a leader in the movement. Uh, the Imam was a leader in Mississippi at a time when it was uh, could be fatal. Uh, and was known for his courage and his um, leadership within the movement in Mississippi. He, of course, followed Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael, as chairperson of Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC, and he carried the call uh, for self-determination as symbolized by the slogan Black Power to the next level. And that next level was the challenge to be prepared to engage at whatever level, including use of force, that might be necessary in order for us as African people to liberate ourselves. He was a Pied Piper, as is it you mentioned earlier, the name H.R. Brown. He was noted for his ability to work with young people and to turn a phrase, so to speak. Um, he, I think, first came to national prominence with the as national chair with the Cambridge uprising, Cambridge, Maryland uprising, with which he had little to do. Actually, he had been in Cambridge, Maryland, gave a speech, and had long since left when um, there was a confrontation, of course, between the community and the cops. They attempted to pin that on him, and of course, the charges ultimately had to be dismissed because he was charged with inciting a riot, which did not stick. Later, at the time, the law allowed folk to travel with open carry as they are returning to the point now that they've intimidated or felonized uh, large segments of our community from carrying guns. He was accused of carrying and to prosecute him for carrying a gun over interstate travel, and eventually passed what we is commonly called the H. Brown law, which against traveling with guns in the open carry. Of course, when we think about the Panthers, that was the same thing that brought them to attention. I think that the the two of those instances um, also helped to cement and connect the two in the mind of the public, and is perpetuated through a media by a media that that uh, triggers the fear of whites about black with guns. And of course, another such person is Robert Williams. About there's a whole another set of uh, stories to be told about. However, Jamil was able to and did at a very early in the game, began to challenge dope dealers in the black community, and that was part of the challenge that he was making in New York when he had gone underground following other activities, and they want to dismiss it as he was just trying to rob a bar. No, he was shutting down a dope house when he, along with others, were arrested. That was before he came to Atlanta and set up the community there. He's a lifelong human rights warrior. And he is one that, because of his ability to educate, to motivate, organize, and mobilize the community, has been silenced and suppressed in history. It's been useful to many people in SNCC, even to disassociate themselves because of their desire to be proximate to white power and to positions of prestige in the system. Kwame used to say that some folk in the movement were confused, that they thought that the movement was about them and their advancement as opposed to the people and our liberation. And those people have unfortunately been the ones who have written the SNCC story. And while they haven't written him out, they haven't given him his just due in the advancement of the relevancy of the organization that it still enjoys to this day.
Mama Fear, what you just said, the last part of what you said, the young folks would say is bars. What you just talked about right there, you this has been a I don't know if this problem started in the quote unquote 20th century. You know what I mean? With this whole rewriting of history and this whole need and desire to be adjacent to white power, these petty bourgeois Negroes, many of them who we have ran with and to some extent continue to run with. Um, many of them, I say, are more dangerous, them in the white left, than
Absolutely.
than alt right, because they siphon and they benefit off the pain and suffering, and only when it's convenient will they say H. Rap Brown. Only when it's convenient will they say Stokely Carmichael or Kwame Ture. Only when it's convenient will they even speak to folks like us on this screen. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So to what you just said, I mean, it's like, it feels like to me that before we can truly combat white supremacy, we have to combat these Negro tendencies. We got to get rid of the house Negro, because ultimately that's what they become by default. Because it's either we for liberation or we not. It's as Imam Jamil H. Rap Brown would say, there's no in between. Either you're free or you're a slave, and that's who we are today. Baba Bilal, uh, when did you first make contact with uh, Imam Jamil, with H. Rap Brown? When, to your recollection, um, did you figure that this is a brother that you could vibe with? This is a brother that you could get behind, uh, sunny days or the days of darkness. When did you figure this out? When did this take place?
Well, first, allow me to say, as he often says, I seek refuge in the law. Seek refuge with the law against misleading and being misled, against betrayal and being betrayed into ignorance by others. I ask the Lord to guide my heart and guide my tongue as to the things that I'm going to say, because I've been asked to say these things, and I hope that people find benefit from within the listening audience and viewing audience of this program today. I pray that people find benefit. When I first met face to face when H. Rap Brown came to New York. At that point, he was part of the national leadership of SNCC. He was the national chairman of SNCC. SNCC had its international office in New York, and he was in New York, and he was speaking at different places. And I met him then. I met the first thing in meeting this brother Aprap Brown was to notice that he was a no nonsense person. He was down with the people. I would say, it's I've never seen him take a drink. I've never seen him have a drink. I'm not to say I don't know if he's ever done that or not, but I've never seen him drink. But when we would meet at different events, and then we would say where we would meet to further talk, he would say Jocks, or Jocks was a bar, and he didn't go to the bars because people was drinking there. He went to the bars because that's where the people hung out, and that's where he always wanted to be, where at the bar, at a club, or in the park where people were shooting basketball. That's where he always wanted. It was always a regular guy. And being a regular guy, there was something extremely important about him being a regular guy, because he was distinguished. Because, when you meet people and people cut it up and shoot the breeze, he always told the truth. I found everything that he'd say, when you ask him a question or when he advanced something up, it would always be true. And that's one of the things that impressed me about him. As a matter of fact, I was Muslim when I met him. I had taken my Shahada when I was about 17. But when I met him, a number of us would remark on Aprap Brown's character and say that, man, this guy's a Muslim. When's he going to take his Shahada? So it was like I'm very proud to find out that he did take his Shahada while we were in New York, while he was on trial. He did take his Shahada in Rikers Island, and he had become Muslim. And for somebody that always wished that and wanted him to do that, I'm very proud to stand behind him when he leads prayer, and very proud to follow his direction as he gives direction on how to organize in the street, as he is still doing. He's still, some people come up with this conclusion that when you're in prison, you can't be a leader. But I find that he can. Maybe some people can't, but Aprap Brown, Imam Jamil, Al-Amin, he can be. And I find that he, even to today, he knows when you speak to him on the phone, he knows what's going on in the community around. He's not even there. He ain't been there in years, but he knows what's going down up and down the streets that I'm walking every day. So he's like I say, he's always been in touch with the grassroots level, and is still in touch in spite of the fact that he's locked away thousands of miles away from that neighborhood where we organized in the west end of Atlanta.
One of the things that impressed me, when I got to Atlanta, of course, we all heard about, me coming from Bridgeport, from Connecticut. We had already knew what time it was with him, and we remember when he was on the cover of all the magazines, when he was, framed and kidnapped and locked up, so on and so forth. We had heard the stories of the work that he did in the West End, and to come to the West End and take my shahada and organize out there and to move around with the brotherhood, right? It was a different feeling, and to hear all the stories and whatnot of how cleaned up the neighborhood, providing 24 hours overnight sutra security. You know what I'm saying? The stories from different people, the Andrew Youngs and the Coretta Scott Kings and all of them that that had such great things to say about him. You know, one would think that the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia would be giving him some type of an award opposed to trying to frame him, right? Um, I want to ask, you coming to the west end of Atlanta and being a part of that community, you know, what did that look like? Because you remember you knew him before he took his shahada, before he became Muslim, and then seeing him lead prayer, lead that community, and as Ibrahim mentioned a while ago about how there was there's a national ummah, you know what I'm saying, and he was at the head of that. Can you talk to us about that? Because I think that again we get, to me it seems that folks separate H. Rap Brown from Jamil Al-Amin, again, and I think that's for convenience. I notice a lot of folks won't support certain political prisoners. I don't know if they figure the Muslims got him or what's the case. And I know some Muslims that hadn't supported him. So from your reference point and frame of reference, what was the west end of Atlanta looking like under the leadership of Imam Jamil Al-Amin?
That's a very good question. Appreciate that question. That's right. Right now, I'm engaged in writing a book on my experience being an advocate for various political prisoners. So I'm starting with Imam Jamil because there's a lot of information about him I think is important. When I came to Atlanta, I had visited Atlanta off and on, never really particularly liked Atlanta. And the only reason I stayed in Atlanta was because Imam Jamil was there. I came, I was in New Orleans, and my wife had come to Atlanta to work with the American Friends Service Committee, and we rented a house in the West End, and I heard the Islam. I said, "Oh man, let me go toward that and find out what it is." And it was it happened to be during Ramadan, like it is now, and he and I saw him standing there, and he said, "Bilal, Salaam Alaikum." We hugged, and he said, "Have you eaten yet?" I said, "No," and it was like, it was like very friendly, very familiar. I had been hearing stories about the West End. Had always heard that they used to call it Little Amsterdam. Like Amsterdam's a place where people could go and openly use drugs, openly use drugs, and that's why people used to refer to the West End as Little Amsterdam. But when Imam Jamil was there, all of that was shut down. All of that was shut down. It was like I was part of the efforts that we had in confronting in New York, confronting drug dealers and getting them to getting some of them, as many as we could, to work on the side of the people, and that was the active program of in Atlanta. When I got there, it was like the late '70s. When I got there, that was the active program of getting people who were doing things against the community to begin doing things on behalf of the community. And he was spearheading that program. And he encouraged us to do more. One of the things that he saddled with me was the prison program. Says I got patience. He told me that's one of the things that we need to have. And he said I had enough patience to write back, to write back to these brothers when they write to him. And that a whole lot of brothers had been writing. So he gave me a stack. He says, "So here you go, brother." He said, and I didn't ask for this, but he says that's the reason why he gave me the job, because people who ask for jobs, he didn't give it to them. If you want to know, bro, I want to do this, or Imam, I want to do this. He would just look at them and say if they want it too bad, but he just set me aside and said, "Well, you do this prison and gang program." He said, "You got the history, you got the patience, and now you with the Jamaat." Because I told him too, that I heard people taking bayat to you. That's the Pledge of Allegiance, for our listening and viewing audience. When we pledge allegiance to a leader, that Pledge of Allegiance is known as the bayat. And I said, I'm interested in establishing bayat with you. And during the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu peace and blessings of Allah be on him, he would always establish the bayat with a handshake. So Imam Jamil put out his hand. He says, "You know how this is done, right?" And so I shook his hand and he said, your bayat, your bayat is accepted, and having bayat with him means that I have bayat. I have that same pledge of allegiance to support him as a leader as long as he remains true, and to support anybody who has bayat with him. That my bond with them is just as strong as long as we remain on the principles on which we established when we came to that community, and that is to uphold the teachings of Islam and uphold the safety and the guardianship of the community that Islam is, and a group of people practicing Islam are able to provide for that community. Then, so that's what it's been. Hearing about it, knowing about it, knowing about him from before, and being down with what he was down with, and coming to Atlanta, and also, like obey my elders. And my father used to always say when we come to, if we were anywhere, he said, "Well, let's go through Atlanta." He said, and let's go by Brother Jamil's house, by Brother Jamil's mosque, and make salat there. So that was, knowing it from firsthand, and then obeying your elders. I kept it up. It's like I gotta do this. What I'm doing, I gotta do it. And I'm very happy and very proud to be doing it.
Well, he picked a good brother. I can say that. You know what I'm saying? Because as long as I've known you, you've been fighting for Imam Jamil. You've been fighting for what's right. So we're grateful for that, and I'm grateful to continue to learn from you, even from afar. And you did pick up on Imam Jamil's piece when he said, "Oh, I'm gonna give you this to do because you know how to delegate." We're gonna go to Imam Lukman. I want to as we moving on, I want to talk about the case, because there's assumptions, there's confusions, there's derailments, there's distractions, there's all types of things that are going on. So for folks who are not familiar, because we've heard about who H. Rap Brown was, we heard about him coming into the Deen of Islam. There are people that are listening, and we as now folks are knowing that he is a political prisoner. I want to ask you, how did that take place? How did he become a political prisoner? How did he go from H. Rap Brown, who was in prison in New York, to Imam Jamil Al-Amin, who has been on a prison tour from Atlanta and beyond?
So, well, what had happened in Atlanta at the West End, uh, two Atlanta deputies that pulled up, they were supposed to serve a warrant to the imam for some petty things as far as this another vehicle he was driving with the license plate and the fact that he had an honorary badge that a sheriff in Alabama had given him, and he was to appear in court to particularly ask us questions about that. So there was a shootout, and with two of the cops, they said they saw a car pull up at the store that they saw it was the imam's. It said someone got out. One of the cops died. The other one was in the hospital, heavily sedated, and the police basically was just putting pictures in his face, stating, is this him? Is this him? This is him. So they ended up arresting the imam and attempting to charge him with assault on two police officers and the death of one. Okay, during the trial in the case, which basically was a sham because they were elderly black individuals who had some knowledge and some evidence that they could have presented, but they were detained from, actually being part of the jury. During and then in the case as it was going on, because the mom, when it was time to, speak for himself, he decided to leave it up to the attorney, but the prosecuting attorney decided to get up and have a mock um, quarry back and forth as if Imam was speaking to try to intimidate and incriminate him. Another aspect of the trial too was that the fact that during the trial the FBI came in at one point and removed the judge and took her back in her room, and they had a conversation and came back out, which is odd because that's never, I mean, you come in and you take a sitting judge off the bench during the trial. So basically the whole thing was a setup and a sham because they had been trying to get him, as far back as it's H. Rap Brown days. um so they end up putting him in prison in Atlanta. um the inmates there wanted him to be their imam. Okay, and the prison had a problem with that because of his status. They thought that he was too vocal, and basically that he had a lot of sway among the prisoners, that they couldn't control him. So part of their plan was, okay, well, let's bury him out of sight, out of mind. So they ended up transferring him, who at the time is a state prison, into the federal system. And that's kind of strange too, because normally that's not done. And the whole time they have to pay all this money for this individual to be taken care of. So they put him in Supermax in Colorado, and that's the worst prison, most secure and worst prison they have on the planet. And normally the prisoners they have in there are usually terrorists or high profile, foreign figures or whatever. So they sent him there and thought that, that was the end of it, but it wasn't, They didn't count on the fact that he had supporters and people, gathering attention and rallying, and eventually we got him transferred out of there. In the meantime, another brother had confessed to the crime, who knew every aspect of what went down that night per se, because the police said that the individual had gray eyes, he was a certain height, and that they had shot him. And true to fact, this brother had gotten shot. The witnesses that they wouldn't bring to court, people were calling in saying that there was an injured man. He was running through the neighborhood, knocking on doors, trying to get some kind of assistance. Um, Right. I would say that the case is basically a sham case. To this day, right now, the Innocence Project in Florida has his statement, a statement that he's constantly stood by and told to the FBI initially, and they said, "Bam, they didn't care. We don't want you. We want
Right.
Israel Brown, Imam Jamil." Then from there, um, the Innocence Project has picked up his case. So right now, they're just waiting for the district attorney, Fannie
Willis.
uh,
Willis.
Wilson
Willis,
to finish her problems, that she's going through, and get this case on the docket so they can go ahead and present it and have him released.
wow. Just hearing that part right there, the fact that Fannie Willis is a whole nother monster, and you talk about confusion by any other name. This is like, man, we talk about, man, that's like, whoo. I mean, talking about timing. We
Yeah,
pray that things could move along on that, because that's a whole nother fiasco.
yeah,
You pointed out some things. You mentioned that they claim they shot him. You mentioned the discrepancies in the eye color. I know that they said that the shooter was what, 5'7", 5'8", and Imam Jamil was like 6'5" or something like that. So
yes,
yeah, so they I mean, it's just all kinds of nonsense. We know that that he was uh, quote unquote captured on this day 24 years ago in Whitehall, Alabama. This is a 24-year uh, commemoration. We're not going to say anniversary because we're not celebrating this. But we know that, he was assaulted by
yeah,
agents there. We know that when he went to court, um, that they placed the quote unquote shell that they claimed that they found on his
yeah,
Cadillac, that he drove 70, 80 miles an
yeah.
hour.
It's still there.
Yeah, to like what, 4 hours away, and the shell was just laying on the Cadillac. But in
Yeah,
court, they just blew it off the thing with their breath. So, it's all types of different nonsense. Um, and I'm kind of, I'm jumping around a little bit and trying to give folks context, because
yeah,
what happens is we know, but their viewers it's like, well, why this, that? You talk about that judge, Stephanie B. Manis. This is the same judge who railroaded Kamal Siddiqui, another one of our political prisoners. So it's all types of different, you know, when Nina made Mississippi Goddamn, I guess if she'd have been around a little bit longer, Georgia would have been on her mind too. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
And one
So,
other thing too, the fact that there was no gunpowder residue, there was no fingerprints on the weapons, anything. Matter of fact, there wasn't anything that they could trace back to Imam Jamil at all.
right.
Everything that they had was planted, and then it was so comical, as you said, like the shell. Supposedly the shell sat on the windshield between the wiper. All that drive in that wind. You mean to tell me this shell did not move? It must have been made of steel or something.
Super
Or
glue
had
must
some
have been
super
on it.
glue on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just a mock trial, basically, a whole bunch of fallacies. It didn't make any sense. For
You know,
instance, they said, okay, the blood trail.
mhm,
Now, when I tried to talk about that to find out whether or not they still had the evidence, because I was like, okay, fine, we can get this retested. I
Yeah.
was told all of a sudden now it's not a human blood, it was a dog. So it's like, okay, where's the dog come from when he got shot?
see, Deputy Dog.
Yeah,
Huh? they, I mean, and we're laughing, you know, as they say, to keep from crying.
yeah,
Because if folks really just take a cursory glance, you don't even have to jump all into the evidence. You don't even have to go there. Just deal with the basic facts. You don't have to go through the transcripts. You don't have to do all that. Just deal with what they're talking about. You don't even have to hear what the defense is talking about. You know what I'm saying? That's obsolete. But still, we have folks running around. You have this docu series that we
oh,
we
wow,
that we thought, we were seeing this billboard in Atlanta for Imam
right,
Jamil. It's looking like hope. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? I mean, all of us was proud. I remember Bob Bilal called me talking about it. I'm like, oh man, they got a billboard for Imam Jamil. I'm looking for it because it's going down. But then the one thing, and in our organization, when you mess up, we make you do push-ups. So we all should get down to do push-ups for
yeah,
falling for that right there, because we're looking at it like we know that if the state got anything to do with anything, regardless of who they send, it's what Kwame Ture was talking about. He said capitalism doesn't lie. Sometimes it lies all the time, and even when it tells the truth, is a result of a double lie.
Right. But
I
you know,
want,
on that
yeah,
radical, the Imam peeped that out because I had
mm,
talked to him, and the interview, I copied all that and sent it to him. And when I talked to him about it, he said, you know, it sound like the brother's greasy. That's how he calls him. He said the
mm,
brother sound like he greasy to me. You know, sound like he looking to make a name for himself. And
Exactly.
he had peeped that right off the top.
early.
And what
Yeah.
really pissed me off initially, like you said, we all thought, oh wow, okay, this is getting out more publicity. You know, we got in my mind too. Also, the young people who don't know or
Yes,
you know didn't grow up with him. Okay, now it's got new exposure. You know, maybe we can get the ball. You know, really get the ball rolling there. And then to find out at the end, this brother done sold everybody out.
Mhm.
right,
You know,
Well,
so I reached out to him. Now I tried to reach out to him as Imam Lukman. I got no response.
right,
So I tried the same avenue again, same contact format using my childhood name. And this brother responded because I put it to him. I said, first of all, how do you as a you know interviewer you're supposed to be on subjective. You know what I'm saying? You're
right.
supposed to have an open mind, and here it is. You throwing your opinion in here, and at the end talking about, oh, well, I know he did it, and then had the nerve to say, okay, when my son grows up, he gets in trouble. I'm gonna pull this out and let him see the whole thing. I told him, I said, okay, now you don't accuse this man. Okay, made your opinion. Okay, in the black community, if you say somebody did something, now you got to prove it.
You got to
Where's your
prove it.
proof?
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
So he was
Okay,
Judas.
yeah.
So, so let me ask you this. Because I want to get into that, and before I get into when the brother met and talked to Baba Bilal, and we know that's a joke. Um, I want to we gonna get into that, but I want to ask Ibrahim because we ain't heard from him, and Ibrahim looking like he in Rikers, like he doing some pull ups in the background. So, I don't want him
I'm
to get
trying to be
mad.
somewhere where I can have some privacy, man.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm good when I go to Cleveland.
No, you good.
What was your thoughts on the docu series? And what was the name of that? I was about to say Rampart.
Radical.
Um,
Radical.
Radical. Yeah,
Yeah,
we should have knew the gig was up then. The jig
Yeah.
was up.
yeah.
Radical. But talk to him
Was
about it, Ibrahim. What was your thoughts when you heard it or
it was
saw it?
like it was like taking a cup of clean water and putting a drop of poison in there. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So I think that what he did, he basically took people on a path from the beginning. First of all, he actually did some things. I think he mistakenly did some things that were beneficial. Like for instance, there's certain things that I didn't know about Imam Jamil's case. As much as we talked about it and looked at it over the years. But one of the things in particular that I wasn't aware of that he mentioned was that on the actual police report or the warrant that they have for Imam Jamil was that it mistakenly said that his eyes were gray on the report. I had never heard that before. So when this guy says that, he said my mother taught me to look a man in his eyes, and I'll never forget those cold gray eyes and all this, all these other, things that he's saying. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're serving a search warrant at 10 o'clock at night. How close do
mhm,
you have to be to somebody to know that their eyes are gray, or to know
Right,
what color their eyes are? You
right,
know what I'm saying? So, for him to even say that, and basically when you put the pieces together, and you hear the one cop talk about he went and interviewed him that next morning, and he basically, he recorded him and said that he told his story. The man had, I think they said 10 milligrams of morphine. He had lost blood, plenty of blood. Not only that, he had the report from the paper that saying Imam Jamil's eyes were gray, and he was sitting in his hospital room watching television. So naturally, he saw Imam Jamil on the reports at this point. You know what I'm saying that he's wanted, and the shooting of these two sheriff's deputies and all of this. Now, mind you, coming from the perspective of a person who was outside of Atlanta when it actually happened, and knowing who Imam Jamil was, You know, we looking at it, right? So here in Cleveland, we saw once it went down, you know, obviously we got word about it. So when we looking on CNN, the main things that we heard were that Imam Jamil had been shot. They had a bolo about him being 5'8", you know, which if anybody's ever seen Imam Jamil in person, you know, he's exceptionally tall. You know, he's 6'5". You know,
you tell that from the screen.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. So yeah, right. So we hearing these things, and again, so even when it got to the point to where Imam Jamil was captured in Whitehall, the first thing we looking at, like, okay, like first of all, we thought that he was dead because they said he shot him. So when they finally captured him in Whitehall, we watching it on, you know, on television or whatever, and we like, okay, like where's he shot at? That was the first thing, one of the first things, conversations that we had amongst ourselves. Like, you know, they said he was like, where is he shot? He walking like there's nothing wrong with him. So, but to relate that to the docuseries, the agent Ron Campbell, the devil who shot a young brother in Philadelphia years previous to this, shot a brother in the back of the head. You know, which he got off for it. Obviously, he has a problem with black people and he has a problem with Muslims. You know what I'm saying? And so this guy says that he, you know, as they went into the woods to get Imam Jamil, he gets stuck in the swamp. So he gets, you know, he like kind of, you know, I guess tells them, you go ahead, you know, I'll catch up. You know, so once he gets stuck, all of a sudden, you know, they find these weapons that Imam Jamil allegedly took from Atlanta to Whitehall, that he allegedly they saying were used in the crime. That he took these weapons that didn't have any fingerprints on them, like Imam Lukman said. He didn't have any gunpowder residue. But when Imam Jamil, you know, took these weapons, if it was a shootout like they said, then why would Imam Jamil, you know, appear and just, you know, like, you know, and leave the woods leave the weapons in the woods where they can find them to say, okay, I'm guilty of this, so to speak.
In Alabama, on top of that,
right, yeah, in Alabama, and even the local law enforcement in Alabama, their observation, not, you know, any other person's observation, but the local law enforcement in Alabama said that the weapons were placed.
I need you to, you know, I want to go back on something real quick, because again, you know, while we rapping, it's almost like Marvin said, just like music, right? So we hear what you're saying, but we need to rewind that, because you said that this officer, Ron Campbell, this agent, shot a boy, a black man, child in the back of the head in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Now he in Whitehall, Alabama, finding weapons in the woods when he got stuck in the swamp.
Exactly.
But he found some. He just so happened to get stuck where the weapons was.
Right.
And his word was trustworthy.
Exactly, and that's part of the problem. I mean, even when you look at the docuseries, even in terms of how, first of all, the informants that they admitted that were in the masjid, that were in the community, you know, so they utilize people, and they know that these people, for one, that they're criminals, that they're committing crimes, they're allowing them to commit crimes, and you know, they have these people on the payroll. You know, they mentioned the one brother, and I don't know the brother personally. I know people that know him or that knew him at the time. You had a brother in the masjid, basically, and the FBI is essentially saying the guy's a serial killer, according to them. Not my opinion. I'm saying they're saying this guy's a serial killer, but yet he's
a killer.
Yeah, right. He's an informant. So you're paying a guy to kill people, but yet we're supposed to believe in what you say.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So there's, you know,
the same agent, right? Because we gotta get back to Ron Campbell. You know, they capture, quote unquote, Imam Jamil in Whitehall. What happens when Ron Campbell and Bob Bilal, you can answer that. What happens to Imam Jamil when he's captured? What's him and Ron Campbell's interaction like?
Well, see, Ron Campbell did not take Imam Jamil into custody. Imam Jamil was taken into custody by by the sheriff deputies of Lowndes County.
Right.
He was laying on the floor when the FBI got there. When Ron Campbell, specifically when he got there and saw that Imam Jamil was laying on the floor, and he was laying on the floor, handcuffed, and he was surrounded by deputies. First thing he did was stomp on Imam Jamil. The sheriff deputies had to hold the FBI back because he tried to jump on. He spit on them and he stomped on them. And the sheriff deputies had to grab him and hold him back. And the Federal Bureau of Investigation says that Ron Campbell was never assigned to the case. So he was there, he was there, like Ibrahim said, telling people to go on. He wasn't even officially he wasn't even supposed to be there.
And it's the FBI saying that. So
yeah,
was he hiking in the woods or what?
He didn't have no business there from them. He went down there on his own, drove his own car, had his own group of rogue FBI agents roaming through the woods. And that's a whole nother story we don't even have time to get into unless we got a few hours. But they had a case where Ron Campbell said that he felt matter of fact, it's recorded, and you can see videos of Ron Campbell saying he felt the bullets whiz by his head as Imam Jamil was shooting at him. But you're in Whitehall, Alabama, and he don't know the place, but we know Whitehall, Alabama. You was just down there the other day. Right. The people in Whitehall, Alabama is looking at these guys running through the woods, shooting. And so they couldn't bring the case to court because we already had that case slammed. They were going to try Imam Jamil for attempted murder on a federal agent. But that case was slam dunk against them because the people, you had like 30 or 40 eyewitnesses, people looking out their windows, wondering why is these guys running around the woods, shooting guns, and they ain't shooting at nobody. Meanwhile, Imam Jamil surrendered to the sheriff deputies in Lowndes County, and in Lowndes County, they surrendered to them, and they protected him from the FBI. Ron Campbell also had the nerve to make the statement in public that if his team had got down there first, there wouldn't be no trial going on now. That's what Ron Campbell, rogue FBI agent, had to say. If his team had got there first, there wouldn't be no trial going on.
Yeah, he drove himself down there to plant those weapons.
Yeah. I mean, on that alone, the case should have been thrown out. I mean, that sounds it sounds like a Lifetime movie. It don't even sound like a Hollywood movie. It sounds like something that they just made up. But I just, so with all that we're talking about, I want to take it back to this docuseries about Bilal, because I understand that the film maker met with you to talk about it. So, tell us what that was like.
Well, first of all, when I never met Mosey Secret. I know Mosey Secret's father, Akil Secret, who's a lawyer who's represented me. He's represented a number of people that I know, including your roommate, my son. He's represented him. He's represented my other son. He's represented as the state brings up things to attack the family with. He's been able to represent us and free us from those state charges. And what is happening is that on the podcast, I hear Mosey Secret say, so I went to see Imam Jamil. I went to see Brother Bilal Sunni Ali and talk to him. I've never seen Brother Mosey Secret. You know, that statement on the podcast is an out and out lie. He never came to my house. The person that came to my house was named Johnny Kaufman, who is a person that had come to several rallies that we had on behalf of Imam Jamil. And Johnny Kaufman, who introduced me to Mosey's Secret over the phone. This was after the billboards was out and they was getting ready to go on. He wanted to introduce me to his partner. And that's how I met Mosey's Secret. Mosey's Secret I wonder, you know, I know that was one lie he told when he said he came to see Bilal Sunni Ali. He's never seen me. He's never met me. Johnny Kaufman came to the house and met me and interviewed me. Johnny Kaufman was the guy that worked for National Public Radio, and he was supposedly at these rallies to support because he was doing a major story on Imam Jamil. And we just accepted it as that. Well, he's doing a story on Imam Jamil. He didn't tell us this is the story and this is what it's going to be. And that the story would incriminate him and Mosey's Secret because they're telling lies that's recorded where he says, you know, I went to see Bilal Sunni Ali.
He said he went to see you. I mean,
yeah.
You know, were you asleep when he came? I mean, like the man said he came. I mean,
I must have been asleep because I never saw him.
I mean,
I must have been asleep. He must have went to see me and came and turned around and
yeah.
back. But my grandchildren met Johnny Kaufman at the door. They saw Johnny Kaufman. And right. Johnny Kaufman, I mean, he looks nothing like Mosey's Secret.
So Mosey didn't have a Johnny Kaufman disguise on, did he?
Yeah, unless that's what it was. But they claimed to be partners over the phone, and this was the deception that that they used was that Johnny Kaufman who was covering these rallies was coming to interview some of us who were involved in organizing these rallies. Now, it was one of the things that early on disturbed me was that we had a rally. We had a rally at the DA's office where 78,000. This was on Imam Jamil's 78th birthday. We turned in 78,000 signatures, over 78,000 signatures of people that were in favor of the Conviction Integrity Unit investigating the trial. People who were saying they support this wholeheartedly, and he was there. Now I wasn't there, but I was told by members of IJAN that Johnny Kaufman was there that day, but he never came into the DA's office to record this monumental event. You got people from about 10 different organizations, each representing thousands of signatures that their organization brought together on a petition to present to the DA, who is the head of the Conviction Integrity Unit, and that he didn't come in that day. And the one important thing that happened that day was the DA's assistant, I don't recall his name, but he came out to the demonstration and talked to Brother Lakeem Winborn, who was the coordinator for IJAN activities locally in Atlanta. And he told Brother Lakeem Winborn Day that he was very proud of the way IJAN and the other organizations presented themselves, that the sheriff's department and other military representatives of the state were actually behind the walls, viewing the whole thing with their guns, ready to roll on IJAN and the supporters of Imam Jamil, because they had been told that there was going to be a major confrontation, and they were there prepared for that major confrontation. And everybody in the DA's office was nervous, and so the DA's assistant came out and told that to Brother Lakeem, that that they were very proud of the way our people acted when they presented themselves in the DA's office, and they were very proud and they were very happy that there was no confrontation, because the state was ready for a confrontation on that particular day, Imam Jamil's 78th birthday. They had spread rumors and had gotten people to come and crowd the hallways and be invisible in the hallways, ready to pounce on some peaceful demonstrators who had came to deliver some legal documents to the district attorney's office. I figured the reason he didn't come in to record that, because he was already predisposed about what type of event was going to take place in the DA's office.
Right.
And when that didn't happen, so many people were so surprised. And we weren't surprised, because that's the way we conduct ourselves all the time. We don't go to the courthouse, we don't bring guns to the courthouse and come to the courthouse. We come to present information, because we want the person that they got locked down. We want them, free. And so we came to present evidence of our support for the district attorney's office, that we support the district attorney's office. We support Fannie Willis for all the trouble she's going through now. And we support her being not a part of this continual betrayal. Like in the beginning, I asked that a lot. Seek refuge in law against betrayal and being betrayed into ignorance by others. And there's so many people, politicians, particularly elected politicians, who don't know the history of Imam Jamil being H. Rap Brown, who put his life on the line so that people would have enough courage to vote for the people of their choice. And that's what started the whole movement in the rural South, which is still going on, of people organizing, voting in slings. Vote because the community says this person is the person we want for that office, not because the person gets up and says, "Oh, vote for me. I'm gonna help us get free." But that whole thing was established by Imam Jamil when he was in Lowndes County, working as the state representative, as the state chairman for SNCC, and in charge of all local operations. And that's what he did. And these politicians are betraying him, like the person who was the district attorney when they when he
prosecuted him.
Yeah. See, that's betrayal, and that's the betrayal that we're talking about when we saying we seek refuge in the law against betrayal and being betrayed through ignorance by others.
So I want to ask, I know we don't have too much time. We got about a good 10 minutes strong, and time flies when we rumbling, right?
Yeah.
And we definitely we're gonna continue to fight for Imam Jamil. I want to ask Mama Fia, because we've already established Bob Bilal was asleep when the man came to the house. So we try to see, like Bob Bilal just said that there was rumors that there was going to be a ruckus up in the courthouse, so on and so forth. I want to ask you, because I know you've been a fighter in our liberation movement, an attorney, so on and so forth. I want to ask you, and you out there banging in Greenville, South Carolina. For folks who've never been to Greenville, South Carolina, I spent some time in Greenville, South Carolina, literally, figuratively and literally. So and I don't miss 4 McGee Street or any of those other streets out there. So I still remember the address from the 80s, Mama
Yeah,
Phil.
I see.
That's how you know I ain't trying to go back. But anyway, I know that for you to be organizing out there, and I remember when I first met you, and I'm gonna just say this real quick. I said, man, when I'm organizing in Atlanta, Mama feel like anybody can organize in Atlanta. Try organizing in Greenville, South Carolina. At first, I was like, oh man, she hating. But man, listen, I give you a strong salute because you out there. If there's a Negro, they exist in Greenville, South Carolina, and I just gotta say that, home of Jesse Jackson. But anyway, moving along, I want to ask you, you know, who would start such a rumor to say that there will be a ruckus when you talk about you have peaceful organizers, you have these good gentlemen from NPR, so on and so forth. Who do you think would start such a rumor, and why would a rumor be necessary when you have Imam Jamil Al-Amin, who was 78 at the time, and folks are fighting for his freedom? Why would who and why would do such a thing in your estimation, just coming from your travels?
But clearly, it was in the interest, and it continues to be in the interest of the state, to present us as, uh, as they would say, as terrorists, in order to justify their elimination of us. We have to go back to COINTELPRO, the counterinsurgency program, which the local law enforcement worked with the federal law enforcement in order to, as they would say, eliminate, neutralize, discredit, and undermine the leadership of the Black community. And that process and that approach has not changed. They've used it and it's been successful for the past 500 years. So when you talk about the NPR, the National Public Radio System, that is nothing but an advertising agency for white supremacy and white domination. It's the domestic version of the Voice of America, which spouted out propaganda outside of the United States and across the world. I listen to them uh, today when they talk about the freedom fighters in Haiti, when they refer to them as gangs, to dehumanize and discount and discredit their struggle to expel imperialists and colonizers. The United States wants to help Haiti. She gives Haiti its gold back that it stole in the early 1900s. So we know that bad jacketing is what it's called. Um, that's a rumor that they would start in order to justify the elimination of those who would speak the truth.
Right on, right on. And I asked that question, and of course we already know the answer, but there are folks who are watching, and they talk about how COINTELPRO is over, and they talk about counterinsurgency, and we know as organizers, COINTELPRO, of course, it's like it is a part of imperialism. Any uh, regime that wants to maintain power and hegemony, they're going to utilize whatever type of uh, tools and apparatus to destroy a movement, and that
Right,
continues. So again, we folks talk about COINTELPRO as if it was a thing of the past. That's just like uh, slavery. It
right.
changes forms, it transforms. So I want to get you all back on here soon, and my apologies for of course, we always have so much to talk about in so little time. And when we're talking about the life of Imam Jamil Al-Amin, formerly H. Rap Brown, you certainly couldn't pack it into an hour and a half. That's impossible. You can't pack the 24 years that he's been held captive and been on this prison tour from Georgia to Colorado to Arizona to North Carolina and you know, in reverse to some extent. I want to ask you all, you know, in these few minutes that we have left, what is the best way that the people can support Imam Jamil Al-Amin and also IJAN, and you know, how can our viewers get involved, and what are some things that they can do to support from where they are? Because, you know, we always have folks that when you talk about doing something, you know, we got 1,000 excuses out. You know, I'm too old, I'm too short, you know, my shoes, you know, my feet hurt. You know what I'm saying? We got every excuse under the
Imam
sun.
Jamil tells us to tell people to do what's easy for them. He says, tell people to do what's easy for them. It's easy to go to your computer or go to your phone and dial up the website www.imamjamilactionnetwork.org. www.imamjamilactionnetwork.org, and you will find things to do. You'll find several hours of video of people talking about Imam Jamil, giving more in depth. One of the people that you like to have on this platform, Brother Daruba bin Wahid, talks about his relationship with Imam Jamil when they were both at the San Corey Mosque in Greenhaven Prison together. Is on that. And also Wendell Parrish, one of Imam Jamil's close friends, from who's now living and working in Mississippi. You have a number of people. We have a YouTube channel where people can get there, and there are several avenues by which people can donate to his commissary fund. And you can find all this at the website, where you can donate to his personal commissary fund. You can donate to the legal fund, and we're asking people to donate to both, to his personal commissary fund and to the legal fund. And you can donate to IJAN to help us carry on a lot of the work that we find necessary to carry on. As we're told, as Imam Jamil says, use his name to increase the level of struggle. And that's what you can do. If you go to our website, you can find ways to donate, as well as ways to get involved in activities. And we hope there to be some activities coming up soon where we'll be addressing the DA's office, Ms. Fannie Willis, and the Conviction Integrity Unit. And so we hope that people go ahead and do that. It's on the site now, and it's on the screen. It's on the screen right now, and that's where you can do www.imamjamilactionnetwork.org.
No doubt. Well, listen, we appreciate you all coming on, and we have gratitude for this continuous work and labor that I know you all have been involved in, and I'm looking forward to continue to struggle along with you. And may Allah strengthen and accept our work and efforts and energy, and we pray that Imam Jamil Al-Amin will be released sooner than later, and he'll be leading from this side of the fence. So
I mean,
yeah, so definitely appreciate you all coming on, and of course, as always, you're welcome here at Black Power Media. And we look forward to seeing you in the whirlwind. All right.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, brother.
I appreciate y'all.
Yes, indeed. We appreciate you all. You're checking out RSTV. This is Black Power Media. Make sure you subscribe not only to Black Power Media, but to RSTV as a whole. Riot Starter TV on YouTube. We have some other things coming up. I want to also announce that this is the 20-year anniversary of our organization, the FTP movement. And as you see scrolling across the screen at the bottom, we will have FTP 20, which will consist of hip hop, martial arts, and activism. It's a hip hop, martial arts, and activism conference, which will take place Black August 16th, 17th, and 18th right here in Atlanta. That will be the weekend of Garvey's birthday. And, we're hoping that you all can join us in our efforts. We'll have a number of folks, hopefully some of the folks that you see on the screen here today, or all the folks you see on the screen, will be joining us for these festivities and activities, and continue to support our freedom fighters, our political prisoners, home and abroad. And till next time, stay on point. We out. RSTV.
Peace. Assalamu alaikum.
May appear a confusing blur of activity, each ant doing its own thing, but it can't be. Somehow the ants coordinate their actions so that large insects are overwhelmed, killed and carried back to the base.
Peers is dying and my people are suffering. The money's still low, you should see how they budgeting. Watch what comes out your mouth. People are suffering. It's elementary, they want us all gone eventually. Peers is dying, people are suffering. The money's still low, you should see how they budgeting. Peers is dying and my people are suffering. Cause the money's still low, they want us all gone eventually. I swear to God, living in this economy's like a robbery. The government taxing me when they owe me for my property. You niggas act like you happy to live in poverty. When I feel like a king, I gotta make these fools acknowledge me. I'm royalty and loyal to the feeling of it. The contrast make it look thuggish. We talk, walk, and look rugged naturally. Nothing sad to see, we all a part of this tragedy. I'm mad at you, so why you mad at me?
We headed for the times of the 9, watch out 6. Sun cycle on the rise, moon cycle out the mix. Living on this planet of the snakes and the crucifix. Pardon self as I unk my way through, marching with my A-boom boom, making my debut. Like great balls of fire, nothing could save you. In these replenishing times, I honor my dead, making my ancestors proud when it's off with your head.
Does my pencil possess potential to change mentals? Yes. Sure what you pen in this pack with the essential less. What is essential to keep it as sharp as against you? Yes. What is essential to keep it like a temple? Blast, alter the temple, keeping the beat simple and fresh. While they whimper and rest, I'm intuition like the simplest gas. Into tradition, I'm on a mission until I transition to give the up and coming a better existence.
I seen a beggar scorn reaching for a corner too. The older we get, it switches up the point of view. And they anointed you, leader of the free world. Desolate minds confined to the B-girl. The most benevolent is evident who I be. Graffiti on the wall, the crew, Drew Ali. Zoo to our key, shifting on the paradigm. Raise the vibration, then go prepare the mind.
Define magnificent red gem, dig deep. The omnipotent, all-seeing, I just peep. The game plan, I pray for niggas, amen. Fat Sharpie, spray can, I'm made man. With suede vans, no street skate, no beat taking. For Pete's sake, he's a beast quaking, the scene shaking. No mistaking, the ants conquer the elephants. FTP, RBG, the rest develop.
What's the ant's secret that makes them the most efficient predators on Earth, consuming more meat than lions, tigers, and wolves combined?
I'm way medicated, puff lion, lace sedated, and stay dedicated to culture that created the essence of the lessons now delivered in my presence. Kalonji called upon me, so now I pose the question: how is it that the blacks came in whips and chains, having nothing else to lose and everything to gain? Now niggas entertain for some whips and chains, a white dame and some fame. Is that shit not strange?
It's kinda hard holding down your dreams when you blacking in America with institutions set to bury you 6 feet underneath dirt for debt beat. Disciples psychological when making those ends meet and needs be. A hand feeds the other teasers. Gather thoughts, grab the Gatlin for good reason. In between success, devil's greed, a pine box, a mind jogs, elusive.
And why I come off in camouflage, can't take cloth. Eating lentils and vegetable broth, but I ain't never been soft. Leading the lost and forsaken by any cost. Bones aching, working hard, trying to bring home the turkey bacon. Breaking laws of gravity, fuck with the family and watch me savagely crush craniums and chest cavities to pray for the casualties. Cause my anatomy is naturally, casually composed. This is self-construction for the soul.
I'm black dynamite, I'll blast you with my nitros. Spit a dope piece with a gold piece in a book with 5 disciples. We channeling boot mind, the revolution sparker. With 8 bars, cigar smoking some dark room on the altar. Watch the daughter work a mojo, walk the stage without a hype man. Electric verses turn the great crowd into light rain. Flood psyches with an ill beat and some brain food that's got hot. Fly wisdom, call saucy, the enlightener, that's side rock.
2012 and times are different yet the same. Nowadays the number of prisoners behind the cage outnumber amounts of those enslaved during the trades. The shame we killing ourselves over what set you blame. Getting shot instead of hang. Nothing changed for the better except the cheddar of corporate profit to gain. The more money in pocket, the more people in chains. Unite niggas who bang, destroy their main aim.
It's all connected, form a web like a Nazi. It's the people, Siafu is the army. Start a top contender, oil plots a new agenda. They even breathe on the track, sucker empty for dinner. All that garbage I penning, this right here's the ending. Words to venom, getting them wrapped in Egyptian linen. Coming for head, this rapper, Kali will shake the rafters. Only thing standing after, walking natural disaster, rapture.